Hello, happy Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining me. My name's Steph. I normally work at Melksham Library and I'm here this week to lead the tea and poetry session that we have every Tuesday from Wiltshire Libraries at 3 o'clock. I've got a selection of poetry to share with you today and a little bit of information about some of the poets and the poems that I'm reading. So thank you for joining me. Do comment in the comments bar whilst I'm reading. It'd be lovely to hear from you as we're live. And so today I'm going to be sharing a number of poems, including a number of poems from some of the leading romantic poets. So hope to share with you a piece from Shelley later on and a piece from John Clare. But I'm going to start with one of the well-known poems from William Wordsworth, who was one of the founding members of the English Romanticism. I think over the last couple of months we have actually shared, myself and some of my colleagues, we have shared a couple of Wordsworth poems. I think I have already read I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, and I know Philip from Salisbury shared with you on Westminster Bridge. But today I'm going to share with you a poem that my teenage son chose. I did ask him if he's got any favourite poems. He's not a big poetry reader, surprise, surprise. But he did. The one poem he did enjoy was "She Was a Phantom of Delight." So I'm going to read you. "She Was a Phantom of Delight" by William Wordsworth, and it's a lyrical ballad, and most people say that it was expressed his feelings towards his wife through the stages of before he actually met her, whilst he was getting to know her, and then once they were married. So here goes. This is "She Was a Phantom of Delight" by William Wordsworth. Hope you're sitting comfortably and hope you've got your tea or coffee. I'll just let you know I've got my nice coffee here. Quick drink before I read. So, okay. She was a phantom of delight when first she gleamed upon my sight, a lovely apparition sent to be a moment's ornament. Her eyes are stars of twilight fair, like twilight's too her dusky hair, but all things else about her drawn from Maytime and the cheerful dawn, a dancing shape, an image gay, to haunt, to startle and waylay. I saw her upon nearer view, a spirit yet a woman too, her household motions light and free, and steps of virgin liberty, a countenance in which did meet sweet records, promises as sweet, a creature not too bright or good for human nature's daily food, for transient sorrows, simple wiles, praise, blame, love, kisses, tears and smiles. And now I see with eye serene the very pulse of the machine, a being breathing thoughtful breath, a traveller between life and death, the reason firm, the temperate will, endurance, foresight, strength and skill, a perfect woman nobly planned, to warn, to comfort and command, and yet a spirit still and bright, with something of an angel light. That's by William Wordsworth. So that's, as I say, a choice from my son Daniel. Just thought that was a poem about potentially Wordsworth's wife, and I wanted to respond that with a poem. It's actually a sonnet dedicated to a husband, and this is by a female poet of the Victorian age, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and along with Christina Rossetti, she was regarded as one of the female poet laureates of her time. And this sonnet of hers, sonnet number 43, it's often mistakenly attributed to Shakespeare, Shakespeare being a master sonneteer. But in actual fact, it was penned by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. and in the 1800s, and this is How Do I Love Thee, which was dedicated to her husband Robert. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight. For the ends of being and ideal grace, I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candle light. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with a passion put to use in my old griefs, and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose. With my lost saints, I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. That was by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. As I said, she was considered, she's considered to be like a female poet laureate of her time. She was a really extraordinary woman, and she wrote at a similar time to Christina Rossetti, who was also, you know, as I say, considered to be a female poet laureate, a very extraordinary woman. She had her connections with other romantic poets. She was the niece of Lord Byron, and she wrote a number of poems and a couple of Christmas carols, which you may have heard of. In the Bleak Midwinter was one of them. So yes, I'm going to read a book. I thought this time I'm going to turn to my lovely little book of poems on nature, which I've shared with you in previous weeks. This one is a timely one, since it's midsummer in a few days' time. So this is her poem called Summer, which I thought I'd share with you. Winter is cold-hearted, spring is yea and nay, autumn is a weathercock blown every day. Summer days for me, when every leaf is on its tree. When robin's not a beggar, and Jenny Wren's a bride, and larks hang singing, 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 and over the wheat fields wide, and anchored lilies ride, and the pendulum spider swings from side to side. And blue-black beetles transact business, and gnats fly in a host, and furry caterpillars hasten that no time be lost, and moths grow fat and thrive, and ladybirds arrive. Before green apples blush, before green nuts embrown, why, one day in the country is worth a month in town, is worth a day and a year of the dusty, musty, lag-last fashion that days drone elsewhere. And that was by Christina Rossetti. Lots of images there with nature, and at the time of summer. I really like the fact that she talks about ladybirds arriving. I think my husband would like some more ladybirds in our garden to keep the aphids down. Aphids have been, especially one of our rose bushes, covered in green fly constantly. Yeah, so come on, ye ladybirds. It also mentions the larks hang, singing. And I'm going to share you a couple of other poems now which are connected to larks. There's a bit of a spoiler there, spoiler alert. But yeah, so that was Christina Rossetti. I hope you enjoyed that one. As I say, Christina's poem mentioned skylarks. I hope to read a bit of To a Skylark by Shelley in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to read you a poem by John Clare. And this one is called The Landrail. Landrail birds are also called corncrakes, and called because of the noise that they make. It's a very distinctive sound. It's been compared to the sound of drawing your fingernail down the teeth of a comb. Perhaps you could always Google or YouTube the sound of a corncrake. It is a very distinctive kind of rasping noise. This poem by John Clare is primarily about the difficulty of seeing corncrakes. So you can hear them, but you can't often see them, which is similar to skylarks. So I'm going to read you The Landrail now, by John Clare. How sweet and pleasant grows the way through summer time again, while landrails call from day to day amid the grass and grain. We hear it in the weeding time when knee-deep waves the corn. We hear it in the summer's prime through meadows night and morn. And now I hear it in the grass that grows as sweet again, and let a minute's notice pass, and now 'tis in the grain. 'Tis like a fancy everywhere, a sort of living doubt. We notice something, but it ne'er will blab the secret out. If heard in close or meadow plots, it flies if we pursue, but follows if we notice not the close and meadow through. Boys know the sound of many a bird in their bird nesting bounds, but when the landrail's noise is heard, they wonder at the sounds. They look in every tuft of grass that's in their rambles met. They peep in every bush they pass, and none the wiser get. And still they hear the craking sound, and still they wonder why. It surely can't be underground, nor is it in the sky. And yet 'tis heard in every vale, an undiscovered song, and makes a pleasant wonder tale for all the summer long. The shepherd whistles through his hands, and starts with many a whoop his busy dog across the lands, in hopes to fright it up. 'Tis still a minute's length or more, till dogs are off and gone, then sings and louder than before, but keeps the secret on. Yet accident will often meet the nest within its way, and weeders, when they weed the wheat, discover where they lay. And mowers on the meadow lea chance on their noisy guest, and wonder what the bird can be that lays without a nest. In simple holes that birds will rake, when dusting on the ground, they drop their eggs of curious make, deep blotched and nearly round. A mystery still to men and boys, who know not where they lay, and guess it but a summer noise among the meadow hay. And that's the landrail, also known as corncrakes. And sadly, the corncrake's habitat, breeding habitat, is in grassland, and it used to be particularly in hayfields. And sadly, since the mechanisation of hay cutting, the numbers in Europe really drastically dwindled. But over the last few decades, there have been efforts to kind of try and to support these birds, and so luckily their numbers have made some recovery, so that's good. But yeah, and as I say, part of the problem is that they do nest in the grasslands and obviously in hayfields. So yeah, and as I say, the poem is primarily about being able to hear them, but not being able to see them because they're kind of hidden in the grass. And another bird, which we often, is often heard when we're out, maybe for a walk in the countryside or even just on the edges of towns and cities, is of course the skylark. I regularly go to the top of Salisbury Hill in Bath. It's got lovely views. There's always skylarks, always the sound of skylarks, and you can hear them, but trying to spot them, sometimes up in the sky, you're looking and looking and you just cannot see them. And I'm going to read you a little bit of To a Skylark, which is by Percy Shelley, another one of the main romantic poets. It's rather a long poem, so bear with me. I might not read it all. I'll see how the time's going, because I've got one more that I'd like to read after this. But yeah, so this is To a Skylark, and it was apparently inspired when Percy Shelley was out for an evening walk in Italy with his wife Mary Shelley, and Mary Shelley described the event in one of her letters. She wrote, In the spring we spent a week or two near Leghorn or Laverno. It was on a beautiful summer evening while wandering among the lanes whose myrtle hedges were the bowers of the fireflies that we heard the carolling of the skylark. So they were on for an evening walk, and this inspired Percy to write one of his famous poems, To a Skylark. I'm just going to have a quick drink. There you go. Right, To a Skylark by Percy Shelley. Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert, that from heaven or near it pourest thy full heart in profuse strains and unpremeditated art. Higher still and higher from the earth thou springest, like a cloud of fire the blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar, and soaring ever singest. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, o'er which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun. The pale purple even melts around thy flight, like a star of heaven in the broad daylight. Thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight. Keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, whose intense lamps narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly seal, we feel that it is there. All the earth and air with thy voice is loud, as when night is bare from one lonely cloud, the moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. What thou art we know not, what is most like thee? From rainbow clouds there flow not drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers a rain of melody. Like a poet hidden in the light of thought, singing hymns unbidden, till the world is wrought to sympathy with hopes and fears it heeded not. Like a high-born maiden in a palace tower, soothing her love-laden soul in secret hour, with music sweet as love, which overflows her bower. Like a glowworm golden in a dell of dew, scattering unbeholden its aerial hue among the flowers and grass which screen it from the view. Like a rose embowered in its own green leaves, by warm winds deflowered, till the scent it gives makes faint with too much sweet those heavy-winged thieves. Sound of vernal showers on the twinkling grass, rain-awakened flowers, all that ever was, joyous and clear and fresh, thy music doth surpass. Teachers, sprite or bird, what sweet thoughts are thine? I have never heard praise of love or wine that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. Chorus, hymeneal, or triumphal chaunt, matched with thine would be all but an empty vaunt, a thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want. What objects are the fountains of thy happy strain? What fields or waves or mountains? What shapes of sky or plain? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance of pain? With thy clear, keen joyance, languor cannot be. Shadow of annoyance never came near thee. Thou lovest, but ne'er knew love's sad satiety, waking or asleep. Thou of death must deem things more true and deep than we mortals dream. Or how could thy notes flow in such a crystal stream. We look before and after, and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. Yet if we could scorn, hate, and pride, and fear, if we were things born not to shed a tear, I know not how thy joy we ever should come near. Better than all measures of delightful sound, better than all treasures that in books are found, thy skill to poet were, thou scorner of the ground. Teach me half the gladness that thy brain must know, such harmonious madness from my lips would flow, that world should listen then as I am listening now. And that's by Percy Shelley, inspired by a walk in Italy, but obviously we have so many of our own larks, skylarks, here in the UK as well. I'm kind of now feeling I want to go for a walk on Salisbury Hill to go and listen to them. I'm also feeling I want to maybe listen to the piece of music, the Lark Ascending, I think, is it? I don't know, maybe if you know, whoever's watching, maybe you could comment. I think is it Vaughan Williams, the Lark Ascending? Anyway, it's a lovely piece of music, which is about the lark, and it is incredibly joyous and lovely, and they are their song is very a joyful sound, and just very kind of uplifts your spirit. So yeah, I'm inspired. I might go for a walk tonight if the rain holds off. Right, anyway, moving on quickly, I think we've got time just to do one more poem with you. And this one, it's not classed as one of the romantic poets. I'm moving slightly away. It's one by a poet that I've shared a couple of his poems with in the past. It's Edward Lear. So this is coming from my little collection of comic poems. Edward Lear, so he's obviously famous for The Owl and the Pussycat, which I believe my colleague Philip shared with you a few weeks ago. And I think before then, I think I had read out another one of Edward Lear's. I'm going to read with you now this one, which is called The Courtship of the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. And here we go. On the coast of Coromandel, where the early pumpkins blow, in the middle of the woods live the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. 2 old chairs and half a candle, 1 old jug without a handle. These were all his worldly goods, in the middle of the woods. These were all the worldly goods of the Yonghy Bonghy Beau, of the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. Once among the bong trees walking, where the early pumpkins blow, to a little heap of stones came the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. Then he heard a lady talking to some milk-white hens of Dorking. 'Tis the Lady Jingly Jones, on that little heap of stones sits the Lady Jingly Jones, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. Lady Jingly, sitting where the pumpkins blow, will you come and be my wife, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. I am tired of living singly on this coast so wild and shingly. I'm a-weary of my life. If you'll come and be my wife, quite serene would be my life, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. On this coast of Coromandel, shrimps and watercresses grow, prawns are plentiful and cheap, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. You shall have my chairs and candle, and my jug without a handle. Gaze upon the rolling deep, fish is plentiful and cheap, and the sea, my love, is deep, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau, said the Yonghy Bonghy Beau. Lady Jingly answered sadly, and her tears began to flow. Your proposal comes too late, Mr. Yonghy Bonghy Beau. I would be your wife most gladly, and here she twirled her fingers madly. But in England I've a mate. Yes, you've asked me far too late, for in England I've a mate, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo, Mr. Yonga Bongy Bo. Mr. Jones, his name is Handel, Handel Jones Esquire and Co. Dorking fowls delights to send, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo. Keep, oh keep your chairs and candle, and your jug without a handle. I can merely be your friend, should my Jones more Dorkins send. I will give you 3, my friend, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo. Though you've such a tiny body, and your head so large doth grow, though your hat may blow away, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo, though you're such a hoddy-doddy, yet I wish that I could modify the words I needs must say. Will you please to go away? That is all I have to say, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo, Mr. Yongy Bongy Bo. Down the slippery slopes of Myrtle, where the early pumpkins blow, to the calm and silent sea fled the Yongy Bongy Bo. There beyond the bay of Gurtle lay a large and lively turtle. You're the cove, he said for me, on your back beyond the sea. Turtle, you shall carry me, said the Yongy Bongy Bo, said the Yongy Bongy Bo. Through the silent roaring ocean did the turtle swiftly go, holding fast upon his shell rode the Yongy Bongy Bo. With a sad primeval motion towards the sunset isles of Boshen, still the turtle bore him well, holding fast upon his shell. Lady Jingly Jones, farewell, sang the Yongy Bongy Bo, sang the Yongy Bongy Bo. And from the coast of Coromandel did that lady never go. On that heap of stones she mourns for the Yongy Bongy Bo. On that coast of Coromandel, in his jug without a handle, still she weeps and daily moans. On that little heap of stones, to her Dorking hens she moans, for the Yongy Bongy Bo, for the Yongy Bongy Bo. That was the Yongy Bongy Bo, the courtship of the Yongy Bongy Bo by Edward Lear. It mentions him being carried away by the turtle, and I thought you'd like to share with me my turtle here. This is Turtle Splashy, who helped me earlier with rhyme time this morning, because today it's World Sea Turtle Day, so rather appropriate that we had a poem today, which I hadn't made the connection until I was just reading it out just then, that of course there is a turtle, so that was rather appropriate. So I hope you enjoyed my selection of poems. It'd be lovely to hear from you, any comments or requests for poems to share with you over the next month or so. Next week I believe the poetry will be coming from Trowbridge Library, and that'll be with my colleague Basil, so hope you can join Basil next week at 3 o'clock. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I say, do send in any requests, any thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. But for now, take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for joining me.